Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Raw review for the 24th of May 2021. Ultimately, this is a much different show over the past couple of weeks because there's less talking and more actual wrestling on a wrestling show. Imagine that. Maybe they've gotten to the point where they just realize that the ratings are falling and that they've got to rehab the product, or maybe somebody new on the writing team who actually thinks that what happens in the ring matters. Anyway, not to say they don't have too many promos still, but they have cut back significantly here. MVP introduces Lashley, starts the show. Lashley is accompanied by 5 women dressed primarily in black. They show a recap of what happened last week, and honestly, nobody cares because these video recaps are just there to fill time. MVP mentions that WWE is leaving the Thunderdome in July, which means the fans get to see Lashley in person. MVP mentions McIntyre is still in a black cloud following his losses against Lashley. Lashley said he beat McIntyre at Mania before beating McIntyre and Strowman at Backlash. MVP said they had to move on from McIntyre, which is why Lashley issues an open challenge last week, and Kofi Kingston accepts the challenge, and the Black Cloud's about to show up again. Mcintyre interrupts. He said nobody should be surprised to see him. He wants to regain the title, and if it weren't for MVP, and if it weren't for Strowman, he'd have won at Backlash. I hate the fact that they're starting to make him being McIntyre look weak, but hey, that's what we do to baby faces in WWE. McIntyre says that Lashley couldn't beat him on his own and wondered if he ever had the guts to face him. McIntyre asked the women if Lashley had any, guts. They seem offended by the question. But anyway, so Lashley and McIntyre argue until New Day interrupts. Everyone remembers that Kofi Kingston pinned Lashley last week. Lashley said that he should thank McIntyre. McIntyre said, "You're welcome." Kingston seemed offended by this, and he said he didn't want help or ask for it. Anyway, so Kingston answers the challenge last week because he never got a rematch after losing the WWE title. Kingston, which most fans probably have difficulty remembering. Anyway, Kingston said McIntyre received a rematch after rematch after rematch, and that it's his turn to step back into line. Kingston did something he couldn't do in many months, and Pierce interrupts. He announced the match between Kingston and McIntyre with the winner facing Lashley at Hell in a Cell. MVP likes the idea, and they show a segment with Strowman returning or plugging the Return to the Road. Stupid finish as we go 21 minutes, 52 seconds. Kingston with Xavier Woods versus McIntyre, ending in a double DQ. There are couches set up for MVP and Lashley and friends on the stage just watching the match. Anyway, Kingston does well until there's a reverse Alabama slam on the edge of the ring. Ouch. Useless spot that really doesn't matter. McIntyre taunts Lashley. We go to the break. McIntyre returns in control after the break and hits a suplex for a near fall. McIntyre follows up with an overhead suplex before dropping Kingston over the barricade. Verk then says, "How wild was Kofi Mania back in the day?" Obviously, he hasn't done any copious research, although navigating Peacock is difficult enough. Who would want to go through that process? McIntyre delayed vertical suplex as he points to Lashley. Kingston makes a comeback with a dropkick, and actually a series of them. Kingston tries guillotine choke. McIntyre counters into a suplex for a near fall. Kingston fights back. McIntyre catches a flying cross body attempt through the ropes and hits the Michinoku driver for a near fall. McIntyre taunts Lashley again, which is enough to convince Lashley to march to ringside. leading to another break. Back from the break, McIntyre hit a back suplex off the top for a near fall. Kingston countered into a cradle for a near fall. McIntyre hits a spine buster for a near fall of his own. McIntyre follows up with a deadlift sit-out powerbomb, which was awesome to look at. On Kingston for a near fall, Kingston then dodges the charge. McIntyre goes into the post. Kingston follows with a frog splash back for another near fall. Too many near falls in the match, but we all think it's cool to be like we're in Japan, so whatever. Anyway, Kingston sends McIntyre to the outside. McIntyre gets back in Lashley's face. Kingston hits a dive onto McIntyre, which knocks Lashley over in the process. Kingston follows with the SOS for a near fall, and Lashley jumps in, attacks McIntyre, and MVP attacks Kingston. Referee calls for the bell, and there is no winner. The finish was a waste. Woods saves Kingston from MVP, and Lashley knocks him out as well. Finally, McIntyre knocks Lashley down with the Trouble in Paradise. Graphic pops up letting us know that we will get Asuka and Charlotte for the 487th time in the last couple of years. Anyway, they air an exchange from earlier today between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. Nikki Cross jumps in and said she could beat either of them. Where's she been as of late? Charlotte said she could beat Cross in 2 minutes. If she didn't already have a match scheduled tonight, Ripley told Charlotte that she's unbreakable because she's unlikable because she talks down to people, rather. Charlotte then tells Ripley to beat Cross in 2 minutes, and Ripley said she'd be happy to do that. Eva Marie video aired, and nobody cared. Nikki Cross defeats Rhea Ripley in a non-title beat the clock match in the 2-minute time limit. Cross would be the winner. She could last 2 minutes. That's the basic idea of the match. With a minute left, Cross hits a jawbreaker and a crossbody for a near fall. Ripley responds with a dropkick and some tackles and strikes in the corner. Ripley continues the attack. Timer runs down to 0 and the bell rings. Ripley acts shocks as Cross is announced the winner and challenges Cross. She celebrates, and the fact that she won the title. Charlotte enters, laughs at Ripley, and Cross dances like an idiot. We go into the second hour. Damian Priest video plugging his return to the road and the return of WWE to the road. They plug on sale dates because they know that even their fans aren't that desperate to return to see subpar action. They may be desperate for a couple of months, but literally 6 months from now, the pandemic crowds won't be what they are, and WWE knows it. Anyway, so McIntyre barges into Pierce's office, and Kingston enters right behind him. Pierce tells them they get a rematch next week, and they're happy with this, even though Pierce gives them no assurance that Hurt Business wouldn't get involved again. Commercial for McFoley's A&E documentary. Flair against Asuka. Another 21-23 match. Basically, the first half of the match is Charlotte working over the leg of Asuka, and Asuka makes a comeback with German suplexes, hip attack for a near fall. Charlotte drives Asuka's leg into the post, but she fights back with a sliding knee off the apron. Charlotte pushes Asuka into the announce table, and then we go to the second commercial break of the match because we don't know how to time the commercial breaks. They basically go back and forth for the remainder of the match. Asuka tries for the Asuka lock, but Charlotte rolls through into a cradle for the pinfall victory. Lashley gets approached by someone handling cameras or something, and MVP wants to address Lashley as the Almighty, and he let the Almighty know that Adam Pearce wanted to see him. Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke plug the return to the road, and we continue to look really, really desperate. MVP and Lashley approaches Pierce, who asks Lashley what kind of champion he wanted to be. Lashley said he's the only one who could represent Raw as champ, and certainly better than Kingston McIntyre. Pierce tells him that either one of them gets involved in the Kingston McIntyre match next week, or even is at ringside, Lashley would be suspended without pay for 90 days. Then there's a video package of an undercard Sheldon Benjamin and Cedric Alexander feud. Another long match, actually probably the longest match Sheldon Benjamin and Cedric Alexander will ever have, because they're on a wrestling kick at the moment. Alexander cuts a promo on Benjamin pre-match, and Benjamin paces around. Alexander wasn't worried about being kicked out of the Hurt Business because he still is in his prime, unlike Benjamin. Corey Graves said Alexander had charisma of a cinder block, which, well, that's a way to kill your talent. Anyway, Alexander leaves the ring as soon as the bell rings, leads to a break. 10 seconds in, Benjamin's in control after the break. Alexander hits a Rana, and Alexander's in control. But strikes don't affect Benjamin the way he intended, and then Nelson has a few kicks and hits a clothesline and a spine buster. Benjamin hits German suplexes. Alexander pokes him in the eye, which the ref didn't see. Alexander follows up with a neutralizer for the pinfall win. Why is someone not Cesaro using the neutralizer as a finish? Commercial for NXT. Plugging Karrion Kross defending his title against Finn Balor, as well as the Cameron Grimes Ted DiBiase face-off. Probably the best stuff that's there. Morrison plugs the returning to live crowds. Riddle defeats Xavier Woods in just under 13 minutes. They grapple, and Riddle shows strength advantage. There's also a bunch of suplexes by Woods. Then they trade strikes and hit some double clotheslines. Woods gives Riddle an AA on the apron. That leads to a break. Woods then fires up post-break and hits a missile dropkick for a near fall. Riddle comes back with a knee to the side of Woods' head, and then Riddle counters with a Broderick and drops Riddle into the corner. Woods then follows with a press slam into a gutbuster for near fall. Riddle does a deadlift German suplex off the middle ropes, and Woods lands on his head. Riddle hits an RKO for pinfall victory. Riddle did Randy Orton's pose post-match. It was a different and special match. They announced that Rhea Ripley will defend her title against Charlotte at Hell in a Cell. Sad thing here, Jackson Ryker defeats one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions, AJ Styles, in just over 2 minutes. Styles is in complete control. Elias appears at ringside and hits him with a knee strike behind the ref's back. Ryker follows up with the Black Hole Slam for the pinfall victory. Almost runs in. And basically lays out the opponent. Then we see Jeff Hardy plugging the return of live crowds. Why does everyone need to do this? It actually seems kind of desperate, really. Sheamus defeats Alberto Carrillo in just under 3 3/4 minutes. Carrillo gets a little bit of shine, but nothing of value. Sheamus has to cheat to get the win, because I guess we're doing the cheesy heel here. Anyway, Sheamus attacks right at the beginning of the match. Ricochet makes the save post-match, and Sheamus takes a couple of moonsaults from Ricochet, and Ricochet finishes him off with a 450 splash. And then Sarah interviews Jackson Baszler, who say they lost last week, but Um, anyway, so that's that. And Baszler said she didn't care what was coming or what unstoppable force was in front of them. She won't get distracted by anybody. She wants to go out with it without him tonight, and I guess him is Reginald. Anyway, Baszler tells Reginald to stay in the back or else, and a new Eva Marie focused on her physical training is here, and then in a very strange and very pointless final segment, we go to Natalya and Tamina defeating Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to retain the Women's Tag Team Championship that literally I can't imagine any fan caring about. Natalya and Baszler have the back and forth exchange. Reginald comes out about 3 minutes into the contest. Baszler is about to go after Natalya's arm. Reginald's walking out because he wants attention or something. This allows Natalya to escape and hit a German suplex. That leads to a break. There's also way too many Germans on the show. And then Tamina and Jax brawl to the outside. Jax backdrops her over the barricade, Graves, and then flips Tamina out of the match. Because of that, and then Natalya hits a discus clothesline on Baszler. Reginald distracts the referee, and Baszler reverses into a small package out of the sharpshooter. Ref's distracted, and Natalya kicks out. Baszler yells at Reginald to leave. Reginald walks up the ramp. He basically gets scared of the pyro. Natalya uses distraction to apply a small package for the pinfall win. Champs retain. Baszler grabs Reginald, tells him they're fighting next week, and that's how we go off the air. What a weird way to end the show. In any event, Raw is continually bad, but we'll be back with more, including more of the WCW Saturday Night series. Until then, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.